There was a time in my life when I felt like I was constantly searching for something: happiness, success, approval. No matter what I achieved, it always felt like something was missing. It was as if I was running on a treadmill, always moving, but never really getting anywhere. Every morning, I woke up with this unshakable sense of urgency, like I was already behind in a race I didn't even remember signing up for. My mind was constantly buzzing, thinking about what needed to be done, replaying conversations, second-guessing my choices, worrying about what others thought of me. It was like living with a radio stuck on full volume, playing the same stressful tune on repeat. And then, something changed. One evening, I was sitting outside watching the sunset. At first, my mind was still running its usual marathon, thinking about things that didn't really matter in that moment. But then, for some reason, I stopped. I took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, I simply noticed what was around me. The sky melting into shades of orange and pink, the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, the gentle coolness of the evening air on my skin. For a brief moment, there were no thoughts, no analyzing, no overthinking, just stillness. And in that stillness, something profound happened. I felt a deep sense of peace, a knowing that everything was exactly as it was meant to be, that I didn't need to chase, struggle, or prove anything. Life was happening right here, right now. That experience changed me. And later, when I read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, I realized exactly what had happened. I had unknowingly experienced presence, the state of being completely in the now, free from the constant chatter of the mind. And that's exactly what today's book is about. Hey everyone, I'm Bix, and welcome back to Bix Book Summary, where we break down life-changing books in a way that's practical, engaging, and easy to apply. Today, we're diving into A New Earth, a book that isn't just about personal growth, but about a complete transformation of human consciousness. This book isn't about quick-fix self-improvement hacks. It's about something far deeper: awakening. It's about breaking free from the mental patterns that keep us trapped in suffering and stepping into a life of clarity, peace, and true fulfillment. By the end of this video, you'll understand why we suffer and how to break free, how the ego traps us in false identities, how to live fully in the present and discover your true purpose. If you've ever felt like there's something more to life but you can't quite put your finger on it, this book holds the answer. Let's get started. Have you ever had a moment where everything just felt right? As if time slowed down, and for once, you weren't chasing after the next thing or dwelling on the past. You were simply there, fully present, completely at peace. Maybe it happened while walking through nature, feeling the breeze on your skin and hearing the rustling of the leaves. Maybe it was during a conversation where words became unnecessary, where connection existed beyond language. Or maybe it was while listening to a song that moved you in a way you couldn't explain. These moments are rare, but when they happen, they feel almost magical. Eckhart Tolle explains that these moments aren't random. They are glimpses of a deeper reality, a state beyond the endless chatter of the mind, beyond the constant stream of thoughts that usually dictate our lives. But here's the problem. Most people never realize that their mind is controlling them. Think about this. Imagine you're at a cafe, enjoying a cup of coffee. Instead of simply drinking it, savoring the warmth, the aroma, the taste, your mind is elsewhere. You're thinking about an email you need to send, replaying a conversation from earlier, planning the rest of your day. Physically, you're there. But mentally, you're trapped in a cycle of endless thinking. Tolle calls this unconscious living, being so caught up in thoughts that you completely miss the present moment. And this isn't just a personal issue. It's a global one. For thousands of years, humanity has been ruled by the mind, by ego, fear, and the belief that we are separate from one another. Wars have been fought, societies have been built on competition, people have lived in stress and conflict, all because of this illusion. The idea that our identity comes from thought, from labels, from the stories we tell ourselves. But something is shifting. More and more people are starting to question the way things have always been. They're beginning to see that material success, external achievements, and validation don't bring lasting happiness. They're waking up. They're seeing through the illusions of the mind and stepping into something deeper. A state of peace, of presence, of being. Tolle calls this the flowering of human consciousness. Just like a flower doesn't bloom overnight, consciousness, too, unfolds when the right conditions are met. And right now, more than ever, humanity is at a turning point, ready to step out of an unconscious, mind-dominated existence and into a new way of being. Not everyone wants to wake up. The mind resists change. The ego fears losing control. And this is where the real struggle begins. If you've ever tried to meditate, be more mindful, or simply break free from stress, you've probably noticed a strange resistance, as if your own mind was fighting against you. That's because the ego is deeply attached to its identity. It doesn't want to let go. And that leads us to the most important realization in this book, that the biggest obstacle to awakening isn't the world around you, isn't other people, isn't external circumstances, it's your own mind. And that's exactly what we're going to break down in the next segment. Think about the last time someone criticized you, ignored your message, or took credit for your work. That quick flash of anger, that sting of rejection, that burning need to defend yourself, it all comes from one place: the ego. Eckhart Tolle describes the ego as the false sense of self we all carry, a mental construct built from our past experiences, roles, labels, and attachments. It's that voice in your head that constantly demands attention, validation, and control. It whispers, "I need to be right. I need to prove myself. I'll be happy when I have more." But here's the catch. The ego is never satisfied. No matter how much success, money, or recognition you accumulate, it's never enough. The moment you achieve something, the ego shifts its focus to the next thing, always chasing, never at peace. And when things don't go its way, it feels threatened. This is why people hold grudges, seek revenge, or spiral into self-doubt after failure. The ego takes everything personally, as if its survival depends on being right, being admired, or being in control. But here's the truth. You are not your ego. You are not your job title. You are not your reputation. You are not your failures or successes. You are something much deeper, the awareness behind it all. To understand this, imagine you're sitting in a movie theater. On the screen, a dramatic story unfolds. Highs, lows, heartbreak, triumph. Most people are so caught up in the story that they forget they are merely watching a movie. That's exactly how the ego operates. It pulls you into the narrative of your life, making you believe that every setback, every insult, every disappointment is deeply personal. It convinces you that you are the story. But what happens when you step back? The moment you recognize you are not the story, but the awareness watching it unfold, something shifts. You realize that no matter how intense the scene on the screen gets, you remain untouched. You are not the drama. You are the observer. This realization is the beginning of freedom from the ego. Because once you see the ego for what it is, you stop reacting blindly. You stop taking everything so seriously. You stop letting external circumstances dictate your inner peace. And here's where it gets even bigger. The ego isn't just an individual problem. It's the driving force behind conflict, division, and suffering on a global scale. And that's exactly what we'll explore in the next segment. Have you ever met someone who seems to thrive on drama? Maybe they pick fights over the smallest things, hold on to grudges for years, or always find something to complain about. It's as if they need conflict to feel alive. Eckhart Tolle explains that this isn't just a personality trait, it's a fundamental part of the ego. The ego needs problems to survive. It feeds on resentment, blame, and comparison because those emotions reinforce its sense of identity. Without them, it starts to lose its grip. Think about the last time you were upset with someone. Was it really about the situation itself? Or was it about the story your mind created around it? The ego thrives on resistance, fighting against what is. If something doesn't go as planned, the ego complains. This shouldn't be happening to me. If someone criticizes you, the ego defends. They have no right to say that. If you fail at something, the ego panics. I'm not good enough. But here's the truth. Suffering doesn't come from the situation itself. It comes from the mind's resistance to it. Imagine a river flowing naturally, adapting to the shape of the land, moving effortlessly. Now picture a giant rock thrown into that river. The water crashes against it, creating turbulence, resistance, chaos. That's what the ego does. It creates resistance to life itself. Instead of allowing things to unfold as they are, it fights reality, creating frustration, stress, and suffering. But what if, instead of resisting, you simply let go? What if, instead of arguing with reality, you accepted it, not as defeat, but as peace? This is what Eckhart Tolle calls surrender, not in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of allowing things to be without resistance. Try this the next time you feel upset about something. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what if I stop resisting this moment? What if I simply allow it to be? And then, something incredible happens. The struggle disappears. You realize that peace isn't something you find in the future. It's something you create in the present by letting go of resistance. But there's one more thing keeping us stuck in old patterns, our emotional pain from the past. And that's exactly what we're diving into next. Have you ever had one of those days where everything just feels off? Maybe you wake up in a bad mood and suddenly the smallest things start irritating you. Your coffee spills, someone cuts you off in traffic, or a coworker makes a slightly rude comment. Normally you'd brush these things off, but today it feels personal. And before you know it, a single moment of frustration snowballs into an entire terrible day. That, my friends, is what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body, a deep, unconscious reservoir of past emotional pain that still lives inside us. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with old wounds, every heartbreak, every rejection, every childhood insecurity. Most of the time you don't notice it, but when the right trigger comes along, a careless remark, a stressful situation, it's like someone suddenly opens that backpack, unleashing emotions far bigger than the situation itself. The pain body is like a sleeping beast. Most of the time it lies dormant, but when triggered, it takes over, pulling you into negativity, anger, sadness, or resentment. It thrives on old memories, replays past trauma, and even feeds on conflict, because emotional pain wants to stay alive. That's why arguments sometimes escalate over nothing. One person's pain body gets activated, and before you know it, both people are locked in a cycle of blame, defensiveness, and emotional outbursts. But here's the truth. You are not your pain body. Just because you feel an emotion doesn't mean you have to become it. The moment you recognize your pain body as it awakens, something powerful happens. It loses its grip on you. So the next time you feel a sudden wave of frustration, sadness, or anger, try this. Pause. Take a deep breath. Instead of reacting automatically, simply observe what's happening inside you. Ask yourself, is this reaction truly about this moment, or is my pain body being triggered? By bringing awareness to the pain body, you create space between you and it. And when you stop feeding it with emotional reactions and drama, it starts to dissolve. This is how you begin to break free from old emotional patterns, not by suppressing emotions, but by observing them without getting lost in them. But the pain body isn't the only thing that keeps us stuck in suffering. There's another layer, the ego's relentless need to control the future. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I'll be happy when I finally get that promotion. Everything will be better once I'm in a relationship. I just need to finish this project and then I can relax. It's always someday, later in the future. But what happens when you actually get what you were waiting for? For a moment, you feel good, maybe even a sense of accomplishment. But then, the mind moves the goalpost. Suddenly, there's another thing to chase, another milestone to reach, another reason why you can't be happy just yet. Eckhart Tolle explains that this is the ego's greatest illusion, the idea that happiness exists somewhere in the future. The ego is always seeking, always chasing, but never arriving. It convinces us that if we just achieve enough, prove enough, or fix enough, then we'll finally feel complete. But here's the shocking truth. Happiness is never found in the future. Because life is only ever happening right now. Think about the last time you were waiting for something, a big event, a vacation, a career breakthrough. Wasn't part of your mind already imagining what would come after it? That's the trap. The mind never lets you fully arrive. It keeps you stuck in time, either dwelling on the past or obsessing over the future. But what if, instead of constantly seeking, you simply became present? What if, instead of waiting for the next thing, you fully experienced this moment? Try this right now. Pause. Take a deep breath. Look around. Really look. Feel your body. Notice the sounds, the sensations. This moment, right here, right now, is life. The more you practice this, the more you realize everything you're searching for is already here. Peace, joy, fulfillment. They aren't in the future, they're in presence. And when you start living in presence, something incredible happens. the mind quiets down, stress disappears, and life starts to feel effortless. But there's still one more piece of the puzzle: how to find true purpose beyond external success. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. For most of my life, I believed that purpose was something external, something I had to find, achieve, or prove. I thought that once I discovered the right career, the right passion, or the right success, everything would finally make sense. But then I read A New Earth, and Eckhart Tolle said something that completely changed my perspective. Your primary purpose is not what you do, but how you are. At first, I didn't fully understand, but the more I reflected, the more I saw the truth in it. We live in a world where purpose is tied to achievement, getting the dream job, making a difference, building something meaningful. And while those things matter, they are secondary. Because no matter what you accomplish in the outer world, if you are not fully present, you will always feel like something is missing. That's why so many successful people, athletes, celebrities, CEOs, reach the top and still feel empty inside. Because purpose is not something you find in the future. It's something you bring to this moment. Eckhart Tolle explains that our inner purpose is the same for all of us. To wake up, to be present, to live with awareness, rather than being lost in the mind. This means that true purpose is not about what you do, but how you do it. Whether you're washing dishes, talking to a friend, or working at a job you don't love, if you bring full presence to it, it becomes meaningful. Try this right now. Whatever you're doing, whether you're sitting, walking, or just listening, fully experience this moment. Feel your breath. Notice the sensations in your body. Let go of thoughts about the past or future. That feeling, that's presence. And when you live from that state, everything changes. Your work becomes deeper. Your relationships become richer. Your life becomes fulfilling, not because of what you achieve, but because of you are fully here. But there's still one thing we need to address. How do we stay present in a world that constantly pulls us back into the ego? That's where surrender comes in. Imagine standing in the middle of a rushing river, trying to fight against the current. You struggle, resist, push against the water, exhausting yourself in a battle you can never truly win. Now imagine what happens when you stop fighting and simply let go, allowing the river to carry you. The struggle disappears. That's the difference between resistance and surrender. For most of us, life feels like a battle. We resist what's happening, fight against reality, and constantly try to control everything. But here's the truth. Control is an illusion. No matter how much you plan, no matter how hard you try to force things to go your way, life will always unfold in its own way, at its own pace. Eckhart Tolle explains that true peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from surrendering to it. Now let's be clear. Surrender does not mean giving up. It doesn't mean being passive. It means accepting the present moment as it is, without resistance. Because suffering isn't caused by the situation itself. Suffering comes from our refusal to accept what is. If things don't go as planned, we resist. If someone lets us down, we resist. If life throws us challenges, we resist. And that resistance creates stress, frustration, and exhaustion. But what if, instead of resisting, you simply allowed things to be? What if, instead of fighting reality, you flowed with it? Try this the next time something doesn't go your way. Take a deep breath. Instead of reacting, simply ask, can I accept this moment exactly as it is? If you can do that, even for a few seconds, you will feel something incredible. Freedom. Because when you surrender, you stop being at war with life. You realize that everything is unfolding exactly as it needs to. And in that surrender, something beautiful happens. You become truly alive. You no longer live in resistance, no longer wait for the future to bring happiness. You realize that happiness, peace, and fulfillment were never outside of you. They were always here, hidden beneath the noise of the mind. And when enough people awaken to this truth, the world itself begins to change. This is how we create a new earth, not through force, not through struggle, but through awakening, one person at a time. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 24 hours, presence. Every time you catch yourself overthinking, stop, breathe, come back to this moment. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed this breakdown of A New Earth and found it valuable, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps support the channel and spreads this message to more people. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new book summary that can transform your life. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know. What was your biggest takeaway from this book? And if you're ready for more wisdom, check out my other book summaries linked on the screen right now. Until next time, stay present, stay conscious, and keep growing. See you in the next one.